Hello, Minneapolis, Twin Cities. What a beautiful day. Happy day before Thanksgiving. This is Anthony Taylor with Minneapolis 360. My pleasure and my blessing, actually, to come to you every second and fourth month, Wednesday of the month at 1 o'clock p.m. on this beautiful day. Love being here, love being in the city, love being able to come into KMOJ. Just really just always excited to be here. Hopefully, bring you some really good information about community, how you can activate, be informed, and all of that. But before I get started, I just want to say a couple things, and this is just me being me and what I think about because it's a lot of us who are the day before Thanksgiving is really I think a beautiful time. Actually, my favorite holiday is Thanksgiving. The only expectation is to eat good and be with family. Not worried about giving Christmas gifts and all that stuff, man. You can make a whole bunch of stuff. You can potluck some things. You can do a lot of stuff, but just to really be in the space where you can be able to count your blessings, be able to sit with family. Tomorrow was never promised to us, Twin Cities, as we notice. I mean, if you take a look at our last couple of years with COVID and everything else, like nothing is promised. So what I would you just really encourage people to do is today be around your family, check in with your loved ones. If you got people coming over, just really enjoy those times because I think at the end of the day, there's nothing better than good food and good family, a little bit of football, and kind of all of that. Just I want to, share just a quick story of mine. One of the best things that I've always enjoyed about holiday is the way the house would smell with food, like the day before and then that day. So I'm waking up, man, and I know y'all can feel me in this Twin Cities. You waking up and you hear your mom's in there cooking or your pop's cooking or your grandma cooking, and you hear those sounds and those smells. You hear that dressing in the oven. That macaroni, them greens is popping. The pies really, if you were OG, were done the day before. So ain't nobody cooking no pies day of. But you see those pies and those cakes and everything else. I think it's just a really great memory. And I always love the fact that always kind of just stick in my head. So just really want everybody to count their blessings, enjoy yourself. I do want to make sure that if you are traveling, please be careful. Just knowing about what we know about the history of the day before Thanksgiving, it is a million people on the road. There's people traveling in the airports, people getting to their loved ones anyway. Just be careful. And, my mother would always say that to me. She'd be like, well, make sure you're careful. And I'd be like, Mom, I'm good. She said, I ain't worried about you. I'm worried about these other fools on the road. So if you get a chance, man, just be careful, but enjoy yourself. So happy day before Thanksgiving. Anybody want to call in, tell me what the menu is. I will be riding around picking up plates and everything else. So if you got something that you want a brother to taste, please let me know. Just real quick fact, I did just pick up a pan of dressing before I got here, y'all. So y'all know what it is, man. I know ain't no judgment out there, but listen, today, y'all, we're going to talk about something that I think we've talked about over the years, and I think I just want to make sure that we talk about, and that is the activity, the information, the updates around 38th in Chicago, George Floyd Square. It is known. I've got a person, I'm going to bring him on to talk about it. He's been a key part of kind of facilitating and quarterbacking a lot of the things that happen. I think we all know in our history what happened in front of the Cup Food, in front of George Floyd Square, the murder of George Floyd, and how that changed a racial awakening, I think, in this country, specifically how it hit Minneapolis, especially during COVID. I mean, it was really a time where a lot of us were shocked to think that it would happen on our soil. A lot of us weren't shocked about it. We've been seeing it all over this country, just the murder of unarmed black men and women in this country. But it happened here, y'all. It happened here, and we're moving up on the time where I think there's been some traction around the things that's been going on. And I know it's really important to a lot of people, what that intersection looks like, right? What's going on with the speedway, what's going up with some of the transportation issues going up over there, maybe some of the conversations about memorials and things like that. But this is an update. I think I want to bring this person on, and I really. First of all, I want to just thank him and give him his roses. I remember when I was first out in George Floyd Square in my role as a City of Minneapolis employee and met this brother out there. And this is the early stages, y'all, of the unrest and everything that happened after that. And he was out on the street talking to people, gathering information. And there was a few core of us that really started. But the beautiful thing about this brother is that he stayed with this for years, being a part of this. And I want to thank him. This is his second time coming on the show. My brother from the city of Minneapolis, Alex Kado, Senior Project Manager, Office of Public Safety. Alex, my brother, welcome back to the show, man. How you been? What's going on?
Hey, what's going on, Anthony? Can you hear me clearly?
We can hear you, bro. You got enough bass for both of us, man. Come on.
Hey, I just always make sure, calling into the radio, being on a phone, I always just want to make sure the audio's coming in clearly.
Absolutely.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. This is actually my, I think, third time on your show.
Okay.
I think one time I did it with James Trice, and then the other time I did it by myself, and third time here I'm by myself. But it's a pleasure to be here with you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And thank you for coming, man, because it's been almost a year since the last time you were on. And I know just being a part of some conversations and how much you are really digging into this George Floyd Square, it's probably a good time for some updates, man. So want to bring you in and just talk about, like, there's been a lot of progress, right? I think that people may not know about that's happening around there. Talk about some of the progress that's happening around George Floyd Square.
Yeah, glad to do so, Anthony. So I've been in the Office of Public Service for the last year. Before that, I was in Public Works. And since I've been in the Office of Public Service, been doing a lot more coordination work at George Floyd Square. A lot has happened. In October 17th, me and some other staff from Public Works gave an update to City Council to highlight the past work and how we're moving forward. Public Works has been doing community engagement for the 38th and Chicago Re-Envision project since early 2022, so almost 2 years now. They've learned a lot through that work. They were primarily focused on how to redesign the street and the sidewalks and the road to really acknowledge the events that had happened. Since just from a functionality standpoint, that intersection is just completely different. And also just, I would say the soul of that intersection is very different now. But they've been doing work for over 2 years. They're integrated into the broader work of the city that I'll talk about, but just want to acknowledge all the work that they've done. They've done, sorry about that. My dog's getting a little excited in the background.
You good, bro.
But Public Works has done open houses, listening sessions, an online survey. They've done focus groups. They've done pop-up events. They've worked with the CCT to do block group meetings. They've put out a survey. I mean, they've been doing a lot of engagement. And a lot of common themes have emerged through their work: social justice, economic vitality, public safety, memorial and respect, designs that promote healing, community gathering, and safe spaces for all transportation types. So they've taken all of this. We're learning from that. We developed a George Floyd Square community engagement framework to really highlight how the city is working to coordinate engagement of efforts for the People's Way, the memorial, and the right-of-way into a more cohesive vision. And then in 2024, we're going to do engagement around that cohesive vision. So before, in the last 2 years, we've focused a lot more on infrastructure, and now we're bringing that together with the memorial and the People's Way so that we're working on a more cohesive vision for George Floyd Square, because I think we all know it's really needed.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking to Alexander Kado, Senior Project Manager, Office of Public Safety. One of the things, Alex, and as I have you dig a little bit deeper into some of the framework and how you use past engagement, just really, I guess, talk about, like, I think people thought initially that this was just going to be a process and a project that once, this thing's happened, people talked about it, that we would be up and running with a whole bunch of stuff and that intersection would be done. Like, just talk about just some of the processes and some of the things that you've experienced on why you really want to be intentional about this intersection and developing it properly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would just start by saying that we're learning as we go. I mean, we've never had an event like this happen in Minneapolis. We've had some similarities in that we had the 35W bridge collapse. There was a loss of life with that, but that was more I would say, an engineering design failure. There wasn't an intentional loss of life by another human. We've had other killings of men and people in our city by police officers, but the way in which this occurred, the way it was captured, is very different. And then also just the place it happened, in the middle of a very busy intersection. And so just realizing that we've never dealt with something quite like this in the city of Minneapolis, and trying to understand how to move forward. First we did lead with an infrastructure project. The street was closed for almost a whole year after George Floyd was murdered. And eventually in 2021, that street was reopened. And a lot of the focus was around that infrastructure. How do we restore access? How do we get people some of their essential services? And so we started with an infrastructure project. At that time, we didn't own the People's Way or the gas station at 3744 Chicago Avenue. So we weren't able to really start more cohesively integrating that into the work. And so I would say the work that Public Works started with helped us kind of better understand where we needed to kind of integrate other elements of. And so now with this kind of vision approach, we're calling it the George Floyd Square Community Priorities and Vision. We want to include community values, so defining the important values from the community. For the People's Way, we want to determine the future use and ownership of that building. For the memorials, we want to define their locations and goals, and also clarifying what the city's role should be in the memorial process, because there's a lot of sensitivity around that. And then ultimately with infrastructure, the design requirements for that infrastructure. And so it's really now, how do we comprehensively deliver on this work in a way that really works for community? Like, leading with infrastructure is always tricky when you have communities that have been hurt from very traumatic events. And there's so many underlying social components that really need to be discussed, planned for, and integrated before we can really make final decisions on the roadway. And so I would say we're still taking all that information that we've learned over the last 2 years, because we've done a lot of engagement. We've learned a lot, but we know we need to kind of bring it all together into a more cohesive vision, gain alignment from community on that, and then start doing some of the design and implementation to follow that.
Talking with Alexander Kado, Senior Project Manager, Office of Public Service. Any questions about George Floyd Square, People's Way, 30th in Chicago? Call up 612-377-3456. And one of the things that I think that I'm so happy about is just the level of engagement that you guys have had with Public Works, with just so many different people, Neo partners with a lot of the learning tables, as well as the meetings at Sabathani. I just think is super important, because now I think where we're transitioning to is what you talked about, like wrapping up this plan and getting it solidified and solid. One of the things that I'm super excited about is that there is, and just correct me and maybe explain a little bit about the process, but there's a request for a proposal for some engagement around this work. Talk a little bit about that, Alex.
Absolutely. So we've been doing engagement for 2 years with the Public Works project. We had a great team we had SRF Consulting doing a lot of the design work, as well as TC2. We had Formula, NAO Partners, and Public Policy Project helping with a lot of the engagement work. I would say Formula did also do some of the light design work. We had a great team. They were originally scoped to do an infrastructure project. So from a budgetary standpoint, from just a clarity of scope of work, their work is concluding at the end of the year. And with this broader work around a broader vision, just from the way we do our procurement contracts, we needed to have a kind of clean and new process. So we released an RFP on November 8th. I apologize, on November 6th. Proposals are due on December 8th. There's a webpage link. If I share it with you, Anthony, you can put it in your social media streams or however you provide that information. But the RFP is for community engagement. We're looking for community engagement professionals to help us develop a community engagement plan and host community engagement events, and really just kind of improve community participation in engagement in 2024, and really help us define that vision document that's going to be a really critical part for this work moving forward, because we need a vision before we can make decisions and move forward on the future of George Floyd Square.
Yeah, absolutely. Just one of the things that I think is just super important is that the help of an organization or people to be able to do this work, I think is vital, right? So you talk about the next steps and beyond. When you're able to align, this kind of engagement with the GFS vision, that's a lot of work. So are you looking for, I think, people, Alex, who maybe have, community ties, who have experience in engagement, know a little bit of history around George Floyd Square? Like, what are some of the tangible things that you're looking for when you're looking for somebody to partner with engagement in this work?
Absolutely. We want community engagement professionals that have relationships with the community of George Floyd Square. Also understanding that the community is a very broad term, and there's a lot of different communities within George Floyd Square. But we want to do work with a consultant or consultant team that has good relationships, that can engage with people, that can increase participation at events, that can meet people where they are at, that can center our voices of our communities of color that are typically not engaged in this process, that also understand the reality that the city of Minneapolis is responsible for the murder of George Floyd, a Black man, an event that really was captured on camera for the entire world to see. And so we want a team that can meet that community where that's at and understand just the cultural significance of that event, that has the passion to support an engagement process that is also very challenging. There's a lot of trauma in that community from this event, from previous events. There's a lot of healing that needs to happen. So we want a team that is able to kind of dig into that and to challenge us as a city and how we do this work, and to help realize a vision that is really community focused and does empower community members to have their voices be shared. And I would say the past team that we worked with did a great job of that. And so we kind of view this as a continuation and a handoff of that work. And that's not to say that past team is still able to reply to this request for proposal as well. But we don't know what that final team will be until we review the proposals and evaluate them and select an ultimate consultant for the work, or a consultant team for the work.
Talking with Alex Kado, Senior Project Manager, Office of Public Safety. We are talking about 38th and Chicago, George Floyd Square, the People's Way. It's been a while since Alex has been on the show, so wanted to provide some updates that's happening or will happen coming up here shortly. And one of the things that I think that has been a while that I think maybe some folks know or don't know is the fact that the city did purchase the old Speedway, if you want to call it, the 3744 Chicago Avenue property, but on some real is the Speedway, Alex. So just talk about that process and what's kind of significant about that purchase.
Yeah, absolutely. So the city did acquire that property this summer. It's been something that's been in the works for probably, I would say 6 to 9 months. The council directive was approved in the winter, and it took, 6+ months of environmental assessments, kind of financial coordination with the owner, et cetera. But the city did purchase that property this summer. And we're really treating it as being a steward of the site. Our goal is to do a lot of the environmental remediation and cleanup, because it did operate as a gas station for a number of years. And anytime you have a property that has gas, and other hazardous waste. There's a lot of environmental cleanup that needs to happen, and it's pretty pricey, to be honest with you. And so the city recognized that the current owner was most interested in working with the city to transfer that property, and we want to maintain it, and we've left it, I don't want to say left it as is, but we wanted to honor the way the community's been using it over the last few years because it's a very popular, community gathering space. And if you go out there on most days, you'll see people over there, having conversation, doing activities, etc. So we're really just trying to maintain it. And then as we develop this vision document, once we finalize that, we're going to go through a request for qualifications process. And the goal of that is to find a community-centered owner of the site that will be able to advance the site that's in alignment with the community visions and values. And that's why the work we're doing in 2024 is really important, because we're going to be doing engagement around the vision for the People's Way, how it should be used in the future. And once that's solidified with community, then we'll do the RFQ process to sell that parcel to a community-centered owner who will then develop that parcel in alignment with the vision. So the community vision is really important. The ownership of that site will be really important. And we as a city want to ensure that whoever is the owner of that property is going to develop it in a way that is in alignment with the community. I think the last thing we would all want would be some type of development to occur there that the community doesn't agree with. And we as a city have a lot of purview to help navigate that process, but really want to rely on the community engagement in front of that to ensure that there's a general kind of consensus with community around what that place should be. There's been a lot of different ideas that we've heard, from a social justice center to a museum, to a wide spectrum of things. And we still want to consider all those, but start advancing some documents that I would say more clarify what we're hearing and start getting alignment. So in 24, we're going to be doing engagement to start furthering that. And like I said, we as a city want to be kind of a steward of the property until we find that long-term community-centered owner.
Yeah, 100%, Alex. And I'm glad you even talked about that. Shout out to Kim Glam Life listening in. One of the things that I think is important that you said that I want to just touch on too is that the city is acting as a steward. Like, the city is not trying to own this space, make the decisions, and keep it. It's an effort that you exactly said. I mean, you're a steward of this property. Whoever gets this property, if the vision is aligned with what community wants, I think that's important, because a lot of times too, when we hear information and not really necessarily dig into it, we'll say, well, the city bought this and we're gonna, they're gonna take it over, and it's not nothing that we had talked about in any of those engagement properties, so engagement opportunities. So I'm glad that you actually said that. One of the things too that I think is important is that memorial hopefully is in line with the broader vision, right? Because we always talk about a memorial. People want to see a memorial, but just really that has to be able to align with actually what the people want, correct?
Absolutely. And I would say that, that's the interesting thing about the memorial process, right? Like, I would say as a city, we recognize that George Floyd Square is an active and dynamic memorial space, right? And that community input needs to guide how those memorial elements are integrated into the future development of the People's Way and the ultimate reconstruction of the street too. So future memorials may include elements from existing memorial space, could also include new elements. These elements could be in George Floyd Square's other spaces in the community. But really our goal for the next steps of this process is to better understand the goals and important locations of the memorial, and also like what the city's role should be in that. I think we can all acknowledge that and have to realize that the city killed George Floyd. Like, the city of Minneapolis is responsible for his murder. And we need to be really thoughtful about our involvement in his memorialization. And I think the community should lead that. And we as a city want to understand through this engagement process, how far into that should the city go? And so that's going to be a really important piece of work that we're doing in 2024, just kind of at a light touch, understanding the memorial elements. How does it integrate into the street and into the People's Way? And but we're not designing any memorials. I want to be really clear about that. The city of Minneapolis is not yet committed to designing any memorials. We need to really get input from community around locations, goals, and our role before we can even have a conversation around the design. And the city really just wants to be a supporter of that in a way that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Just wanted to make sure I clarified that, and you did a great job too. Like, I just think this is something that we want community to make a lot of these decisions and take ownership of that. And as we run up against the clock, Alex, I know that there was, even before the murder of George Floyd, there was, some transit plans that were going to happen, with the D-line that was, kind of taking shape or form or talked about. Just where are we at on that now, Alex?
Yeah, so D-line opened, so summer of 2020, Metro Transit removed the D-line at 30th and Chicago from its construction plans and has been on a reroute. So the D-line opened last winter of 2022, and they've been on a detour routing ever since then. The 5 and the 23 are also being detour routed around the intersection. We are still working with Metro Transit around future transit plans, but we haven't made any commitments around if and when transit will be restored to the intersection. We do know that it's a bit of a confliction point, right? Some people want transit back, some people don't. I think we can all agree that how people get to and from and through George Floyd Square is really important, and transit is a really important method of getting people to those places. And as we continue our engagement at 24 and beyond, we're going to start integrating all of this in a bit more holistically. In the past, we were a bit more focused on the infrastructure piece, and now with the memorial conversation kind of coming into the fold, with the People's Way coming back into the fold, we're going to start working through integration of that and continuing to work with Metro Transit and community members around that. But as of right now, we have no immediate plans to return transit to the intersection, but it is something we are definitely considering and working through.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate it. One of the things that I at least envision the immediate is you being able to come back in 2024 to give us more updates, especially around the community co-creation team and the survey. I think maybe as that time goes on, you'll be able to have some more information to kind of share from that survey. One of the things that I think that I really want to commit to is being able to make sure that we're informed about the update and the progress around this real vital space in our community. And again, you've been able to come on for the third time. You're probably going to lead the league in appearances on KMOJ, which is all good with me, man, because I respect the work that you're doing. So, brother Alex Kado, man, I appreciate you carving out some space today to be on the show, man. I want to wish you, a happy holiday and, a break and hope you can decompress and get ready to get back on it on Monday. So appreciate you, bro.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, Anthony. It's always a pleasure, and I hope you have a great holiday weekend, brother, and enjoy the time with your family.
Thank you. Listen, man, y'all, Alex Kado, City of Minneapolis, talking about George Floyd Square. I mean, that's just real, the People's Way. I think being able to be involved to see exactly like how that progresses, because I think it's important, right? So we can't forget about the history. And Alex said it best, space means a lot of things to a lot of different people. So if you can able to get involved, I would always jump on the Minneapolis city website to get more information, to kind of reach out and being able to kind of hear some information. So with that being said, Tamika riding aboard, sis. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you.
For sure. Appreciate you.
Thank you, sister. Thank you.
Super professional. Made it so easy.
Yeah, you help, sis. So I appreciate you.
For sure.
Thank y'all.
89.9 KMOJ. Tamika Renee is definitely still in the building, filling in for Glenn Golden. And I want to shout out Anthony Taylor and Alexander Kado, Minneapolis 360. They're going to give you the full 360 of what's going on in Minneapolis, and we definitely need that information.